This is the Washington Times front page for the first day of June, Thursday, June 1st, 2023. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy beat back a revolt from conservative Republicans and opposition from progressive Democrats to pass his bipartisan debt ceiling deal with President Biden. In a 314 to 117 vote, Harris Alec reports the House passed legislation to raise the debt limit until January 2025 and institute spending caps. Overall, 165 House Democrats joined with 149 Republicans to overcome opposition from both parties. The Democratic support was pivotal since McCarthy could only afford 4 defections from Republicans, given the GOP's narrow majority in the House. The legislation now heads to the Senate, where it's expected to be voted on before the June 5th default deadline. That's where things could get interesting, Ramsey Touchberry reports. The Senate is struggling to reach an arrangement to allow for swift passage of the deal. An agreement is needed among all 100 senators to speed up the process in the chamber, where each member wields the power to force the Senate to run out the procedural clock and blow past the Monday deadline. That's when Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the government won't be able to pay all of its obligations without borrowing above the current $31.4 trillion ceiling. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has refused to meet Republicans' demands for roll call votes on amendments before they agree to fast-track the bill. Any changes to the legislation would send it back to the House for another vote, all but ensuring missing the deadline. New research finds the Chinese lab at the center of speculation about the origins of COVID-19 received 4 different grants from the U.S. government over the past decade. Stephen Dinan reports watchdog group Open the Books says the money is part of at least $1.3 billion in funding provided over 5 years to research labs in China and Russia. Along with Iowa Republican Senator Joni Ernst, they identified $870 million in grants and contracts that went to Russia over the past 5 years. Another $490 million went to China. The State Department unveiled a new space diplomacy strategy in a bid to counter efforts by China and Russia to militarize space. Bill Gertz reports the new strategic framework for space diplomacy aims to engage foreign governments, international organizations, and commercial space groups in promoting safe and responsible space exploration and commerce. The diplomacy will also seek to reduce the potential for conflict as China and Russia field increasingly advanced space weaponry. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the framework is the first initiative of its kind seeking to advance U.S. global space leadership. An Iranian dissident group claims Iran is financing its military and internal security forces by exporting billions of dollars worth of oil through a network of international companies that evade U.S. sanctions. Guy Taylor reports the National Council of Resistance of Iran says companies operated by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps have facilitated sales not only of Iranian crude, but also the international transport of sanctioned Venezuelan oil, with China as a primary buyer. The group claims revenue from sanctions evading oil exports have also been channeled to Iranian security forces engaging in violent crackdowns on internal dissent amid ongoing anti-regime protests that began in September 2022. And finally, Tom Howell has an update on Tara Reade, the former staffer who accused President Biden of sexual assault. Reade has fled to Russia and is seeking citizenship there, claiming she fears for her safety in the United States. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/frontpage or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Washington Times in any major podcast app. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.